Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to Industry Insights, where you will learn some insider career tips from the employer perspective. And today we have a very special employer guest with us. It's Ken Zunic, who is a senior corporate recruiter at IPS, Integrated Project Services. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ken.
Anytime. Thank you guys for having me. And on behalf of IPS, we appreciate you reaching out to us and wanting to hear a little bit more about our story and some of the things that we have to say. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Excited to hear the advice that you have for our students. So Ken, we'd like to start by getting just some information about your background. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe your professional experiences, your current role, your company?
Sure. So I'm as Catherine mentioned, I'm a senior corporate recruiter for IPS. Again, stands for Integrated Project Services, and we'll get into a little bit more about what it is that we do and the industry that we're in. I've been with IPS now. It's crazy. It's almost 6 years. Next month will be 6 years in September, and I've been doing recruiting and what it is that I do since I graduated college in 2007, which time continues to fly. So that's 13 years of that. I've worked in a variety of industries, but a lot of them have always revolved around engineering. I've always had a passion for engineering recruiting, and it's one of those things too. When I first came out of college, it's not something that you go to college for. I mean, not that my degree was anything crazy. I went to school for sport management. And then I fell into this and I didn't understand what it is that they did. And I've really come to enjoy what it is that I do. There's a lot of challenges with it, like in anything, in any job, but there's a lot of rewards for it too. So, here I am 13 years later and with IPS for quite some time now, and I'm continuing to really enjoy it. So as far as IPS and who we are, again, IPS, the acronym is for Integrated Project Services. So this is kind of a mouthful, but I can break it down and make it very simple. So we are a full service architectural engineering biotech facility design company. Now, I know, again, it's a mouthful, but essentially what we do is we design and build the facilities where they manufacture and they make drugs all over the world. So we are a globally based organization. Although we are headquartered just down the road here in Blue Bell, PA, and not far from you guys in Lehigh, we have multiple office locations, both in the US and internationally, with almost 1,400 employees combined. Now, what makes up IPS and what we do? First of all, we're solely based in the life sciences industry, so the pharmaceutical, the biotech industry. And we have three major divisions that makes up our organization. We have design, we have construction, and then we have validation. When you look at and you break down all three of those divisions, that's what makes up the life cycle of a facility project within the pharmaceutical realm. So when we say that we design these facilities, it's not so much the walls and the roof, although we sometimes are involved with that. It's that whole interior portion of that facility that you need to have in order to manufacture a drug. And one of the many interesting things is that all these facilities are different because each drug and each organization, the way you produce things, there's always different challenges. There's always different ways of going about that. So we have so many clients throughout not only the US, but internationally, and so many industry experts within those disciplines, because there's so many jobs within design, construction, validation. There's so many things underneath it that it makes it very interesting what we do on the consulting realm, because it's always changing. It's always about change. And it's not just because of the way that the world is now, but it's just what has to happen in order to continue to produce these drugs. So a lot of times when I break down, when I talk to a candidate, especially somebody that does not know what we do, I always try to focus on a couple of things. One is the industry that we're in. So you look at the crazy times that we're in right now with this pandemic and COVID-19, or even just in general, our industry is cyclical, but the peaks and valleys are not that high. You think about it, how many drugs are out there? How many drugs are for certain things? We are involved with those things on a regular basis. So you're in an industry that's not going to go anywhere. And on top of that, when you look at IPS, and I know this may be a biased opinion, but it is true, and I've certainly witnessed this many times. We have a very, very reputable, we're very reputable in the industry. We're well known in the sense of what we do on the expertise level. So in a nutshell, we design the facilities where they make drugs. We are globally based. And lastly, we've been around for 31 years. So you have the backing of an organization with a good reputation, you're in a strong industry, and you've been in the industry for a long time.
Thanks so much, Ken. That was very helpful to hear a little bit about your background and about IPS. And so you mentioned that IPS does a lot of different things, but it seems like primarily, if we were to break it down, you provide engineering consulting services. So I'm wondering, can you tell us what you would recommend to students who may be interested in engineering consulting, as far as maybe some of the key skills or experiences that you would recommend to help them be competitive for that field?
Sure. I think each industry and every organization probably has a lot of common characteristics in what they look for in candidates. Consulting engineering, especially to people that don't know, it's different because you're not making a product, right? We're not going out to the floor and going and producing widgets or parts or anything of that sort. Your clients essentially are who you work for. Your people essentially are your products. And I know that kind of can sound bad, but that's the truth, and that's the matter of what it is. So when you have a strong combined skill set, or even if you know and start to continue to learn more about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, do you like to be challenged? Are you open to travel? How are you with speaking to people? How are you with communication? How technical you are? All of those things, when you have some sort of a combined skill set with that, it's extremely valuable to an organization like ours, because when you break down these different divisions and what people do, there's a lot of different hats that you wear. On top of that, we're involved with so many clients, so there continues to be different types of challenges. It's not the same thing every single day. Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but there's so much variety. So the ability to adapt to change, having the technical aptitude and really understanding what it is that you like and want to go after and continue to form your career on. And knowing yourself is really a big thing. How do you want to be challenged? Because you can really be challenged in this industry. And people that are open to that and have that variety of skill sets in their background, or continue to hone in on them and focus on them, is extremely valuable for an organization like ours. It's something that you can't always, and I'm not saying like I would know this for sure, but other organizations, whether it's an owner for an operating company like a Merck or a large company, there's a big difference in a small, close-knit consulting engineering firm. And really, it's all about the people for us. And there's a lot of value that individuals, once they figure those things out, can really provide to a company like ours. It just takes time. You know what I mean? We don't expect people to come out of school and know exactly what it is that they want to do. That's not the goal. The goal is to understand what it is that we do and how that also caters to their skill set as well. It's not just about, well, let's get somebody in the door to fill a void and okay, this is done. It's a much different type of environment, because it's all about the development. A lot of it is about the development of the people, because that's what makes the money for us. That's how we keep getting work. That's how we continue to work on new clients. So that's kind of like a general overview of it. I hope I know it's very general, but at the same time, I think those values that I stressed are really going to be important for people to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ken. That was very helpful to hear what you look for from the recruiting perspective. And when you first introduced yourself, you mentioned that in addition to the recruiting side of things, you also will help candidates understand their salary and their benefits packages. So I'm wondering what advice you have for students as they consider job offers and begin to negotiate.
Well, a lot of the times, and one of the things I like to focus on when you're looking at an entry-level candidate, it's a little different as far as your leeway when it comes to negotiation compared to, say, a 10-year candidate that's a seasoned vet that has the experience, right? What I try to focus on, and what all of my colleagues in the recruiting realm focus on is really making sure that everybody has a solid understanding of the salary and the benefits. So that's understanding the compensation. It's understanding your benefits as far as your health insurance, your 401k. Do you get paid overtime? Do you get a bonus? How much vacation time do you have? Because each student is a little different depending upon their situation, especially with the benefits on whether or not they stay on their parents' benefits till I think it's 25, 26 years old. They have that option, or they're going to need the benefits. You really want to try to have them have that full-on understanding of what this offer entails. So here's your job. Here's your job description. We'll go through the interviews. This is a breakdown of our benefits and what it's going to cost you. We also pay, in our case, we also pay overtime. We pay straight time overtime. So sometimes if you're a salaried employee for organization XYZ, you could work 60 hours a week, but you're still going to get paid that salary, which is fine. But for us, we pay straight time overtime for any hours that are still billable to the client over 40 hours. I also try to make sure that students are aware that we do annual reviews as well as mid-year reviews. And those reviews are based upon goals that you set in the beginning of the year, and your increase is based upon that. So really, my best, regardless of what company you're interviewing with and what you're going after, it's really trying to have that full-on understanding of the breakdown of that package. So for example, say you got two companies that you're interviewing with. You got company A, company B. You got this company offering you 75 grand, you got another company offering you 70 grand. But you got to put that side-by-side comparison down there. And the other thing I will say, after you do that comparison, I know salary is important. Let's face it, you just went to school for 4 to 5 years. However many of you are going to have tons of student loans. You got to pay these things off. You've worked hard to get this. You have your entire career to earn money. I'm not saying take a small salary, but I'm saying if it's a difference of 2 grand, 3 grand, even up to 5, you start seeing an impact in your paycheck. 2 to 3 grand, it's different. And even if that is something that you do value, which is okay, as you should, it never hurts to ask. Because what's the worst they're going to say? No. Hey, I got an offer for $75,000. You guys are offering me 70 grand. Is there any chance I could get 2 grand more? Or a sign-on bonus, what have you. Is there any way we can get creative with this? Look, Sue, Jim, Sally, we'd love to, but we can't. Okay, but at least you asked. And again, when you break, at the bottom line, when you get to that point, is really just understanding everything that you have on the table so that you can make the best decision for you, so you know exactly what you're getting into, at least when you start on day one, when you walk in the door.
Thanks, Ken. Those are some great tips for students as they begin to think about offer and salary negotiation. And then another area, Ken, that I know you and I have talked about several times is networking and how important it is that students are out there building connections with professionals in their field to help them land opportunities and generally just advance in their career. So I'm wondering, in your experience, what would you say are some of the best strategies for networking in your industry?
In our industry specifically, and I'm sure this is this way for a lot of other industries too, even though the pharma world is so big and it is huge, it is still incestual by nature. And I know that that word isn't always the best word to use, but it's very true. And you always hear that. Everybody knows everybody. It's a big 6 degrees of separation concept. And nowadays, I say nowadays, even compared to 10 years ago, it's so much easier and so different to get in hold of people and make those connections. So even if it's as little as you attending, say, a seminar, or for us, like an ISPE event, International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineers, because there's so many different ways that the industry that we're in networks. And that's how you're going to meet people. And that's how you're going to continue to grow your network. And when you get to a point, sometimes if you want to switch careers or switch jobs, you don't need to post your resume. You have people that you're going to go to right away and say, boom, hey, look, I'm looking to test the waters, identify my options. Do you have any pointers out there? And just like I said before, when it comes to salary, it never hurts to ask. It never hurts to reach out, because what's the worst they're going to say? Not respond, or they don't have something available, or the best thing that's going to happen is they're going to say, hey, look, I can talk to you more about this, or hey, let's talk. Because it's continuing to form that network as time goes on, it's really going to help you continue to learn about new things in the industry, learn new things about different types of organizations, and maybe even in general for you and your career, things or ideas of stuff that you want to do or things you want to look into that you can continue to build your passion on. So understanding how to utilize LinkedIn and continuing to build your network for that. And I'm biased too with that as well because I'm an advocate of LinkedIn because I live on that thing all day long. But it really is extremely helpful. And also continuing to put yourself out there when it comes to networking events, whatever they may be. And again, in an industry like ours, it's a very strong network. It's extremely strong. Everybody knows everybody. And that is really what's going to help you when you continue to stay in this industry and work on your career path. It's very, very valuable. I see it all the time. It happens on a regular basis with me in recruiting and people in our company that know people in different organizations, whether it's an operating firm or consulting firm. That's what it's going to be based on.
Awesome, Ken. Well, you've covered a lot of great information for our listeners so far. And to conclude, is there any final words of wisdom, any final career advice that you would give to our students?
I thought about this question because it's generic for a reason. It's good, right? Because there's a lot of different things that you could offer to this. And I thought about just 2 points that I wanted to bring up in the end. And the second portion of this point is definitely going to sound a little corny and cheesy, but it's okay because that's part of it, and I'm okay with that. But the first thing I'll say is, and a lot of people I work with, we talk about this on the regular, including one of our executives in our organization and my direct bosses. There's no blueprint to any of this stuff. There's no blueprint to life. There's no blueprint to your career. You don't know what you're going to do 2 years from now, 5 years from now, who you're going to meet, where you're going to work, the people you're going to work with. You have no idea. Focus on the things that you can control. What the type of work that you want to do, the amount of work that you put in, the efforts that you make. And then don't worry about the things that you can't control. Just keep those things in mind because, again, it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But the bottom line is when you focus on at least a couple of those things going forward and just take things step by step, it's really what's going to be helpful for you. And again, at least in my opinion. And the second thing is most people know me, that know me, know that I'm a huge movie buff and I'm a huge sports fan. And anybody that listens to this call, or especially students, they probably wouldn't know this movie. But there's a movie, a baseball movie from the early 90s called A League of Their Own. It's one of I love sports movies. And it's about the All-American Girls Baseball League. And it takes place in around World War II when America went to war. And they needed people to play baseball, and that's where this thing came from. So Tom Hanks, Gina Davis, Madonna, and Rosie O'Donnell are in this, right? So you get to the latter portion of the movie. Tom Hanks is the manager. Gina Davis is the all-star for the team, right? Gina Davis's husband comes home from the war, which is great because he's still alive, and anybody back then would count that as a blessing. So they're leaving the hotel, and Tom Hanks is about to board the bus with the other girls to go to the next portion, next game or whatever, and Gina's standing outside of her car with her husband, and she's like, look, I'm packing it in. I'm heading out to Oregon. I'm going home with Bill. And Tom's like, you're quitting. And she's like, and they exchange a few other words, and she sits there and she says, it just got too hard. And Tom Hanks replies to this, and he says, it's supposed to be hard. And it's supposed to be hard because the hard is what makes it good. It's what makes it great. It's why everybody doesn't do this. I'm not trying to relate baseball to engineering or career development or any of those other things, but when you put in that time and effort, and you do all those things, and you have those goals, and you get to that point, it's those things that are going to make it great when you start getting a few wins here and there. So, for example, it could be the smallest thing. It could be your boss telling you, great job. It could be a raise at the end of the year. It could be all of these different things. But people don't do all these things because, frankly, it's not easy. Not everybody can be an engineer. Not everybody can be a pilot. It's the hard that makes those things great. And you have to continue to focus on those things because It's not going to be easy, but it's not supposed to be easy, and that's okay. And I'll give you one last example with that and how it relates to what it is that I do. It took me a long time to get to where I'm at in my career. I struggled quite a bit in my 20s until I got to IPS. But it's even the littlest thing where on a Friday afternoon, if I call a candidate that's starting on Monday that we've gone through the whole interview process with, regardless of the level, it could be 200 grand a year, it could be 65 grand a year, it doesn't matter. But when that candidate sits there and says, hey, Ken, thanks so much for everything. I really appreciate this. I'm looking forward to getting this started. You've made this process great. To me, it's even little things like that. Because again, none of this is going to be easy, but you take little things and that's the reason you keep doing it. Just like athletes and other people, not everybody can do that stuff. But you put yourself through those grinds because that's what you enjoy, that's what you're passionate about. So hopefully, in conclusion with that, hopefully people can find that. And when you do find that, you can really start to try to cater yourself or motivate yourself on the direction that you want to go in. And keep those basic things in mind because it's going to be a grind, but that's okay. It's supposed to be.
Excellent advice, Ken. I think both in career and in life, focus on what you can control, try to let go of the things that you can't, focus on the small wins and enjoy the process. Those were the notes that I took down as you were talking. Although I'm not sure if I'll watch that movie you mentioned, but I'll definitely keep in mind that advice.
Just YouTube a tiny clip on it. It's a 2-minute clip. If you YouTube A League of Their Own and that little saying, it'll come right up. It's a 2-minute clip, and you'll see the comments in there. Everybody use it. I didn't think of it because of that. I just thought about it on one of my walks last week. So I know it's corny and it may not be the best thing, but I think the message though, it really is important, and I can attest to this. And I'm sure that all of you on this call, especially the staff here at Lehigh, you all have been doing different things for different amounts of time in your career. I'm sure you can attest to these things, that nothing is easy. It's not going to come instantly, but it can be very rewarding when those things do come out, however little or big they are, and when it comes to the wins or what have you.
Absolutely. That's a great takeaway. So it looks like we have about 5 minutes left in our session, and some students did put some questions in the chat throughout. Christine, would you like to read those off for Ken now?
Absolutely. So in our engineering college, consulting is not necessarily something that they often think about as an opportunity. So can you walk us through what is engineering consulting? Can you walk us through a day in an individual that does that position?
Oh, that's a very good question, because it can be very hard to describe that. And it's funny, I had a conversation with a candidate last night who's a two-year candidate with a mechanical engineering degree that's been in consulting engineering with just a different organization. And he said that to me too, because I asked him, I said, did you know about this in college? And he said, I knew about it through an internship that I did. That's how we knew. But it's not something, you're right, that's common. You have to put your mindset in the frame of mind in that, again, you're not making any products. You are working for a client. You are getting billed out for the work that you do to a client. So for example, if you want to walk yourself through a day of engineering, say a company like Merck comes to us and says, we got to do a fit out for this lab that we need to update. So what do? They send us an RFP, request for proposal. We fill this proposal out on how we're going to do this work, the manpower that we're going to put on this, the resumes, what it's going to cost, what the time frame is. And then we send that in, and if they choose us, they say, okay, go ahead. So what it is too, is you're working with a lot of different types of people. You're going to work with people that are on the client side that are going to need to get this project done. You're going to work with different departments within the organization, like mechanical, electrical, plumbing, process engineering, architecture, design, construction. You're going to work with different firms on the consulting side, because it's not like every project they hire just one company to do this. You may be doing the design portion, another company may be doing construction. So it's really not always the same every day. And that's where, again, the challenge comes in from a day to day. You're going to walk in, you're a full-time employee of our company. You're going to have your desk, your cubicle, but you're going to be working on different clients throughout each week and each day. And you are going to allocate each of your time to that, and you have to track all of those things. So going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, when you say, what is consulting engineering? It's really a lot of hats. And that's where the challenge can come in, because it's not an easy thing for everybody to do. And when you continue to try to work on fine tuning those skills of all the different things you do, client visits, coordinating with the vendors, coordinating with the client, working with your coworkers, working with another firm, it takes up so much, but yet it can be so extremely rewarding when you get done and you can look back and say, okay, this is what I've done and what we've done to complete this project. Hopefully that gives a little bit of an idea. It's a day-to-day is very different for each person, but the day-to-days aren't always the same. And it really takes some time to getting adjusted to, because you got to get your mind wrapped around what it is that you're doing and how it is that we work within the industry, as opposed to going to a traditional owner firm where you're walking in every day. And I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it's just a different lifestyle. Very entrepreneurial too, very entrepreneurial. That's the other key thing with us. It's all about being able to think outside the box, think on your toes.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. I appreciate the clarification. And we have one question from a student. So this is going to be our closing question.
Sure.
Are there entry-level opportunities that are available for consulting engineers at IPS? And what are some tips you might advise for those roles?
So I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit. Are there any openings right now for us, and what's the advice when you apply to them?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it rotates honestly throughout the year. You know, we rotate when we need entry level based upon our project workload and then the projected workload. So sometimes we have a need for entry level engineers. So the answer to that right now, we're pretty good on the entry level engineers, but that's because we just went through a big hiring spree this summer in probably about 5 or 6 different departments. It really does rotate though on the regular. It can be at the turn of a dial that it just switches that way. The best way that and the biggest thing that myself and my colleagues say when we talk about this is really to keep in touch with us. Once I have your resume, it's on our applicant tracking system. It doesn't go anywhere. I communicate with a lot of people on a regular basis that check in. Hey, Ken, just checking in. Anything become available? Okay, we're good right now. Or hey, yeah, we got something. Let's talk shop a little bit more. It really comes down to, and a lot of people will see this like anything in life, it's timing. It's timing and being able to keep and build those and maintain those relationships. So my best advice for this is, yes, you can apply online, but we also welcome, and we have this happen with many people, to just email me directly on LinkedIn, or to take a look, or again, if you look at our website, feel free to reach out to us that way as well. But it's all about just keeping the communication. That's going to be the important thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Ken. You gave our students a lot of amazing information to think about. And students, Ken mentioned he would welcome the opportunity to connect with you on LinkedIn. So feel free to send him a connection request. And please consider opportunities at IPS if it sounds like the kind of company that you would like to work for. So
absolutely. And you have a new movie to watch. So I mean, it's such a win-win situation for everybody. But in closing, you know, I first of all, again, I wanted to thank all of you for putting these things together this summer. I think it's great for the amount of time and effort that everybody has put into this, coordinating schedules, reaching out, and being able to provide this type of insight to the students, I think is another nice thing to add to the whole repertoire of preparing people. And we are certainly very honored and happy that you would reach out to us and want us to tell you a little bit more about our approach and our opinions on things, but as well as our organization and industry. So as Catherine mentioned, if anybody has questions, comments, thoughts, anything of that sort, please feel free to reach out, and happy to keep in touch with as many folks as possible.
We appreciate it, Ken. Again, so valuable to hear from your perspective.
Thank you, guys.